defendants in the courtroom. Have you all had a chance to look at the list of the hardship jurors?
Yes, Judge.
Do you see any issues with that at all?
I think we had spoken about it, Your Honor, and I think there was one that was off the list initially. It was the first one who was excused. The initials FF, he was let go immediately. And so I think that was just the only addition we had to it.
Yeah, he was not on the original hardship, and that's why we didn't have any notes on him, but he was the gentleman whose wife or girlfriend was in labor, so.
Okay. Oh, that's right.
His name is Farnham, and I'll be glad to get his full name if you like.
I think we've got it, Judge. You took him out of order, actually, because he was a late addition.
I did. I took him and I took the gentleman on the walker.
Yes, ma'am.
Initially, because I thought he might need to get going, and the other man was obviously in pain to me. Well, I'm going to file this with the clerk.
Okay. Great.
Did y'all have any questions for the defense about it?
No, ma'am.
We can bring jurors.
Your Honor, before we bring them in, can I ask one other question?
Oh, sorry.
Mr. Kilgore and I discussed this during the break, and just as far as when we get to individual voir dire, we discussed how it may be better to break it up. If I ask individual of juror one, then he gets up and asks, and we go that way.
I don't have a problem with that if you're comfortable with it. I think it makes good sense.
Thank you, Your Honor.
It'll probably keep y'all from getting as worn out too. Well,
Or y'all is worn out from hearing us.
oh no, we're already there.
I said as worn out.
No, I think that's a very good idea for an awful lot of reasons. I'm glad y'all thought that up. Shall we bring them in? Let's bring the jurors in.
Let's all rise for the jury.
All right, I believe we're ready to resume.
Please be seated.
I would like to point out that trying to be as timely as possible is important, because if like one person is late, it slows everybody up. So trying to be as reasonable as I can with the amounts of breaks we take and things of that nature, but it's extremely important for the good of everyone that we make our best effort to be on time. And so I just want to call that to everyone's attention, because it did kind of cause a bit of a delay. And when one person's late, everybody waits, which is a poem, so don't do it. All righty. Mr. Boring, I believe that you have concluded with your general questions of the panel.
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Kilgore, are you going to do that?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. You can proceed.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to introduce us again. I'm Maddox. This is Brian. Okay. Of course, Ross Harris. And this is Carlos. Carlos was had the opportunity to argue in the Georgia Supreme Court yesterday, so he was in Atlanta and just flew back. Mr. Boring covered virtually every subject that we need to ask about. I'm obviously the oldest of the lawyers who have made this trip, so unfortunately my hearing might not be as good and eyesight might not be as good as everybody else, and I'm the shortest. So when I ask you to raise your hand, if you wouldn't mind raising it real high, particularly those of you in the back. I'm going to have to ask some questions again that you've already heard. So please just bear with me. Mr. Bourne did a good job covering virtually everything, but I am going to ask the same question, maybe in a little bit different way to make sure we get everything. So I'm looking at the panels here. 1, 2, all right. The third row. Ma'am, you're on the third row?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Make sure I can see everybody. And is the fourth row on 2 different rows?
Yes.
Okay. All right, sir, so you would be, for purposes of this panel, you're number 35?
Yes.
You're 36. Okay, great. Thank you. All right, we asked a little bit already about any familiarity with the Cobb County area. I'm going to ask it a little bit different way. If you would, just raise your hand. I'm going to go panel by panel. All right, the first thing I want to know is, do you have any friends or family in Cobb County, Georgia? Any friends or family? All right, if you'll just keep your hands up. All right, number 5. I'm going to do this. Okay, number 8. Let me get a seating chart. This might make it a little easier for me. Okay, who else on the back row? All right, second panel. Third panel. All right. 35? Okay, thank you. All right, so the next thing I want to know is, if you don't have any friends or family there, has anybody ever lived in Cobb County? Okay. Yes, ma'am. Number 5. Thank you. Anybody else? All right. All right, so Mr. Boring asked about some specific areas that you might be familiar with. Ma'am, I'm sure you're familiar with these areas, but I want to just double check and make sure. Smyrna, Marietta, or the Cumberland Mall and Paces Ferry area. Okay, and of course, juror number 5, you are certainly familiar, if you've lived there, you're familiar with those areas. Anybody on panels 2 or 3? If you're familiar with certain areas of Cobb County, in particular Smyrna, Marietta, and the Cumberland Mall area, or Paces Ferry and 285. All right, and so you are juror 35? Okay, thank you. Was there one more hand?
Yes, sir.
Oh, great, okay. Juror 2, juror 7, juror 8,
26.
and 26. Okay, did I get everybody? Great. All right, so you were asked by the judge if you had heard anything about the case. All right, that was a day or two ago, so I want to ask, and of course everyone raised their hand. Well, let me just ask, has anybody changed their mind and decided or figure out that they had heard something about the case and you didn't alert us to that yesterday? Okay, juror 12. And if I call out your wrong number, let me know, but you're definitely 12. Anybody else kind of reconsider it?
I didn't hear about the case until yesterday morning when I got.
I'm gonna ask that. Okay? All right. Since the judge asked you about it yesterday, has anybody heard anything on the radio or read anything in the newspaper or seen anything on the news about the case? All right, first panel? No? Second or third panel? Great, okay. All right, a little more specifically, what about family and friends? Since we were in court yesterday, has anybody gotten a call or a visit from a neighbor or from a family member that wanted to talk to you about the case? Maybe gave you some information about the case? All right, you are juror 2. Okay, anybody else? Yes, ma'am. 11? Yes, ma'am.
They didn't tell me anything, they just said I was reading about the case in Atlanta.
Okay. All right. We can follow up on that. And yes, ma'am, number 11?
Yes, my neighbor just called and said, I know you are on jury duty. Are you on that Cobb County case? And I go, I don't want to talk about it.
Okay. Good for you. You did the right thing. That's the example. But we can follow up on that. All right. Anybody else in panels 2 or 3? Okay, great. All right. The judge also asked some questions, and Mr. Bourne asked some questions that kind of touch on this. I'm going to phrase them a little bit differently, and don't give me a complete answer. This is really just a yes or no. All right, so I want to know, has anyone expressed an opinion, any opinion, by typing it out on the internet, Facebook, or anywhere, typed out an opinion regarding Mr. Harris's guilt or innocence? Has anybody done that? Expressed an opinion online in any way, shape, or form regarding guilt or innocence in this case? All right. Thank you.
There's a hand, Mr. Fuller.
So you would be 19, 20. Okay, thank you.
Is it 20?
It was 20.
Thank you.
Okay. Let me just broaden that a little bit. I want to know if you've expressed an opinion by typing it out on the internet or email or anything like that. Not just about the guilt or innocence of Mr. Harris, but about anything about the evidence in the case. Maybe you heard something about the evidence and then you typed something on the internet. Does anybody fall into that category? Okay. No hands? All right. Has anybody expressed an opinion or typed out any comment online or in an email concerning your desired outcome in this case? Has anybody done that? No hands? All right. I don't think we're going to get any responses to this, but has anybody expressed any comments about any of the lawyers involved in the case? Okay. All right. Has anyone formed or expressed an opinion concerning whether or not they believe a child can be forgotten in a car? All right. If you would just keep your hands up, I'm going to go panel 1, starting with number 2.
Was that online or just?
Any opinion that you've expressed online or to another person, or that you have formed, an opinion that you have formed. All right, so I've got number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6. All right, I'm going on the back row now. Number 7, number 8, number 9, number 10, and 12. All right. So starting with the second panel, let's see, on the first row, number is it 17? All right. All right, number 18, and then the row right behind them, all right? 19, 20, 22, okay? All right, and the third panel. All right, so I'm starting with the third row. (26) 28, 29, 30. All right, and then the back row. 31, 32, 34, and 36. Okay, thank you. This is close to what we asked before, but what we need to know is, have you had any family members or close friends that have given you what their opinion is about the case? It doesn't have to be recently, it could have been at any time. All right, number 2. Seven, 8, 9, 10, and 12. Okay. All right, then on the second panel, yes, sir, you are number 15. 16, 20, 3rd panel. All right, 26, 28. All right, then on the back row, (31) and juror 31. Does your last name start with an A?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll make sure I've got it right. 32, 34, and 36. All right, thank you. All right, and Mr. Boring asked a question that was close to this. What we want to know is, have you read any news accounts or stories in the paper or online about a child left in a car other than this case? Have you read any news accounts of stories of a child left in a car other than this case? All right, first panel. All right, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, not number 7, number 8, number 9, 10, 11. All right, thank you. All right. All right, second panel. Anybody on the second panel? All right, 19. All right. Your last name starts with a D?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That's not the last time I'm going to make that mistake. All right, the last panel, the last group, third row. Okay. All right, 26, 27, 28, 29 and 30. All right, and then on the back row, all right, number 31, 32, and 36. Okay, did I get everybody? All right. Okay. Is anybody in here familiar with any public service announcement, such as the Governor's Look Again campaign or anything like that, that reminds parents to double check their car for children? Is anybody familiar with any of those public service announcements? Okay, panel 1. All right, number 4. Yeah, right. All right, I've got the numbers discombobulated here, so let me make sure. All right. All right, number 4, number 5.
Is that like that news says, it's hot outside, make sure you,
Make sure you look back in your car. Yeah. Have you heard any of those?
like on the news, like when they, in the summertime?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And you're number 6. All right. In the back row. All right. 7, 8, 9, 10. Number 10. And number 12. All right. Panel 2. You've heard those public service announcements? Yes, ma'am. Number 16. All right. Second row. 20. All right. Third panel. All right. Number 26. Okay, and is it 30? 30, okay. All right, in the back row, let's see, number 32. And 36. Did I get everybody in the back row? Yeah? Okay. All right, is anybody familiar with the any of the websites that monitor child deaths in cars, such as Kids in Cars or NoHeatstroke.org or any kind of website like that? Is anybody familiar with those websites? All right, panel number 1, number 5. Let me make sure. Your last name begins with an H, right? Okay, good. All right. Back row, anybody? All right. Panel 2, anybody familiar with those websites? Or any website like those? All right. Last panel? Okay. All right. Has anybody actually Googled or researched or investigated stories about a child dying that was left in a car? Has anybody ever Googled that before? All right, panel 1, 2, last panel. Okay. Now, Mr. Boring asked this, and there were a few hands, but I'm not sure that I got everybody, so I'm going to ask it again. Do you know anybody whoever accidentally left their child in a car, even if it was just for a short period of time? All right, panel 1. All right. Number 2. I got you, number 2. And number 11. Okay. Panel 2. Panel 3. 30?
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay, was there anybody on the back row? No. All right, is anybody familiar with products on the market to prevent parents from accidentally leaving their child in the car? Is anybody familiar with those products? Anything? Anything that you believe is a product that's come into the market to prevent people from forgetting their child in a car. All right, number 2. Okay. Anybody else on panel 1? All right, panel 2. $20. All right, anybody else on panel 2? Panel 3?
Question.
Yeah.
Does that include school buses that have the alarm system set, go off, making the driver go to the back of the bus, make sure?
Yeah, if it's any mechanisms designed specifically to prevent a child being left in a car, that's what I'm talking about. If you're familiar with any kind of product on the market that safeguards that. Okay. 30? Number 30? All right. And in the back, okay, yes ma'am, number 36. Thank you. All right. Now, along those same lines, does anybody, either yourself or do you know somebody who takes affirmative steps um, to remind themselves that a child is in the back of the car, such as leaving one of your shoes in the back of the car or your phone in the back of the car or something of that nature. Does anybody know, either yourself or somebody who does that? Okay, panel one. Number two, thank you. Number 7, I'm sorry, 8. Thank you. All right, panel 2. Number 20. Thank you, ma'am. All right, and the last panel? Okay. All right, aside from accounts about children that we're talking about, has anybody heard any public safety announcement or stories about an animal being left in a car? Any public safety announcements about, hey, it's summertime, temperatures are up, don't forget your dog in the car? All right, panel 1. All right, I'm going to go with number 2, number 4, number 5, number 6, number 7, number 8, let's see, number 9, number 10, number 11. Okay. All right, second panel. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 16. All right, thank you, ma'am. $18. All right. 19. 20. 21. 23. Thank you, ma'am. All right, and then the are you Mr. O? You're Mr. O? All right. You had your hand up?
Yes, I'm for it.
Okay. All right. And last panel. All right, y'all help me out here. We'll start with 26. If I get it wrong, just holler. All right, not 27, number 28. 29. 30. All right, and then on the back row, 31. 32. Okay, and 36. Thank you. All right, Mr. Boring asked if anyone was responsible for transporting a child to daycare in a car seat. And what I want to make sure is that everybody has answered that question and nobody has remembered something from, oh yeah, 5 years ago I used to do that all the time. Is there anybody else that would answer yes to that did not answer yes when Mr. Boring was asking the question? If you're responsible or have been responsible for transporting a child to daycare in a car seat. Okay, thank you. All right, so many of you have children, and many of you have been responsible for transporting a child in a car seat, which means unless you got a gift, you had to buy a car seat. So I want to know, did anybody in buying that car seat, did they do any research? Figure out which one was best for our family. First, panel number 1. Okay, number 5. Number 7. Number 9. Okay. And second panel. Yes, sir. Number 15. Number 19. Number 20. And last panel.
Kathleen, do you want this back? Are you able to hear what you need to hear?
I think that Mr. Boring asked about if you knew if anybody knew a criminal defense lawyer. And again, my back was to this group here, and it went kind of fast. So I need to ask that again to make sure that I got everybody's answer. So if you have any family or close friends or maybe next door neighbor that works as a criminal defense lawyer. Anybody in group 1? All right. Number 5.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
I answered yes the first time through,
Okay.
but it's not a member of the family or a very, very close friend. It's just somebody that was in the same office. And
Some-
our firm would then consult him from time to time.
Okay. I'm gonna put that down, and then if we want to follow up with you on that, we can do that. All right. Number 12. Okay. Number 12. Excuse me. 6. Number 6. Ms. Trailblazer, you did not answer yes to that, right? Okay. Okay, panel 2. Is anybody a neighbor, close friend, or family that's criminal defense lawyer? Panel 3. All right, number 36. Thank you. All right. All right, whether they're a close friend, family, or whatnot, I need to know who has ever had to hire an attorney. Doesn't have to be a criminal defense lawyer, but if you've had to hire an attorney before. All right, group 1, number 2, number 5. Say again? Yeah, I'm gonna put you down. Number 4. Okay. Yeah.
Like you hire a lawyer to do a will?
If you've hired a lawyer to do a will, yeah, I'll put that down, and then if we want to follow up with that, we can. Okay, number 6. Number 5, I've got you. Thank you. Okay, 7, 8, 9, 10. Thank you. 11. All right. All right, in panel 2. Here we go. Number 13. 16, 17. Is that the first question you've answered, ma'am?
I believe so, yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. 18. Right row behind that. 19. 20, 21, 22. 24. All right, last panel. All right, starting with 25. All right, Miss 25, is that the first question that you have answered? To me, yes. All right. 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Ma'am, are you number, let's see, I can't tell which row you're sitting on. So you're 31. I apologize, it's just hard for me to see. You're 28. Okay, you had your hand up?
Yes.
All right, so it's 28 and 29. $30. All right, then on the back row, 36. 31. 34. All right. All right, just holler out your number if you don't hear it. Okay. All right, so you've heard the charges. So we know some of the subject matter that's going to be discussed in the case. So we have to ask some questions that might be a little more uncomfortable, that we're not typically used to talking about in public. So the first thing that I want to know about in that vein is I need to know if you know any family or friends or coworkers who have had an affair. If you family, friends, or coworkers. All right, I'm going to start with panel 1. All right, juror 1, juror 2, juror 3, juror 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, 11, 12. All right. On the second panel, let's see. All right. 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21.
Question,
Yeah.
is this regarding like a legal affair, or can it be between a couple that's not legally married, or just to get some clarification?
I'm going to put you down as yes, and then we can follow up, okay? And just to make sure that I've got, you are 21, right? Okay. 22, 23. You're Miss PE, right?
Yes.
Thank you. And 24. All right, last panel. Okay, just keep them up till you hear your number. 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, back row, 32, 33, 34, 35. How'd I do? Did I get everybody? Okay. And Miss 33, you are EH. All right. Is that the first question that you've answered for me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right. I believe that Mr. Boring asked a question or questions about divorce. I want to know something very specific. I want to know if anyone has ever been through a contested divorce. And I want to know either if you have been through a contested divorce or your spouse has been through a contested divorce. In other words, the person you're married to, they had to go through a contested divorce. All right. Panel 1, 11. Panel 2. Panel 3. Wow. It's amazing the difference in the answers between the county that we come from and in this county. Typically, we wouldn't have all of these pages of answers. Y'all have done a really great job of answering questions, but it's interesting that some of the questions we ask in Cobb County where a bunch of hands would go up, we're not seeing that here. So that's interesting for the lawyers. All right. And you probably have a lot less divorce lawyers down here, apparently. Make note of that, please. All right. Not meant to embarrass anybody, but again, being all adults, we've heard what some of the subject matter is going to be in this case. And what I want to know is, does anybody here know whether or not their significant other or their children ever look at pornographic websites? Either your spouse, significant other, or your children. Panel 1? 2? All right. Number 18. Okay. All right, and the last panel, panel 3. All right, thank you. What about sexual addiction? Does anybody know anyone? Does anybody know anyone that's had some sort of sexual addiction? Panel 1. All right, number 5. All right, panel 2. All right, 18. All right, panel 3. Okay, so number 35. Thank you. All right. I just don't recall how Mr. Boring asked this question, so I'm just going to ask it again. What I want to know is whether your family personally, you or your family, or one of your close friends has experienced the death of a child. And we're talking about a young child. Panel 1. All right. Number 2. Number 3. Number 4. Number 6.
Young child, the teenager.
I'll put you down. Okay. All right, back row, that will be number 7, number 8, Number 11. Thank you, ma'am. All right, panel 2. Number 15. Number 16. 19. I told you I was going to do it again. True to my word. All right.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Would abortion be considered that also?
That's not exactly what I was asking about, but I'm going to make a note of that, and then we can question you individually if that's something that we need to talk about. Let's see. So, $22. 22? 22, okay. All right, thank you. And 23, was your hand up?
No.
Was not, okay. 20, all right, back row. Or back, last panel, 25. $26. 26, you're like me. You're low down there, so you got to really swing that hand. There we go. Thank you. 728. All right, then on the back row, 31. 32. All right, thank you. All right. What about some other than the unexpected death of a child? I want to know if anybody has experienced any kind of unexpected trauma or unexpected tragedy other than the death of a child. All right, panel 1. All right, number 9. Second panel. 16. Thank you. 17, 18. All right, thank you. The row behind that, 19, 21, 22. Yeah, I can ask it again. Yes, ma'am. All right, I want to know if anyone has experienced unexpected trauma or tragedy other than the death of a child. Unexpected trauma or tragedy other than the death of a child. Let's see, 22, are you a yes there?
No.
Okay. 22, 23. Yes, ma'am?
No, I was just telling you I didn't know that question.
Okay. All right. 56. 23. All right. In the row behind that. Hey, we're getting through this together, y'all. All right. Number 25. 32. All right, thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am. 36. Okay, I like that. I appreciate that help. Thank you. All right. That's fair. We're going to question everybody individually and follow up with a lot of these questions. So if we ask anything, not just this question, if we ask anything that's kind of sticking with you, that hey, let me tell you about something, you can bring that up to us at that time, okay? Because we can't really have a hypothetical to cover every scenario or every question. But if you've experienced some unexpected trauma or tragedy in your life, that would be something that we would expect probably would pop into your mind immediately, and that's kind of what I was asking for. I mean, if you've got to really dig for it, that's probably not what I'm asking for. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. But if you think of something, you can let us know when we ask you individually.
Does that include depression or illness?
That's probably a different line of questioning. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. But again, if there's something that you think that you need to tell us about when we question you individually, that'd be the time. All right. All right, so we're talking about unexpected tragedies or traumas. Has anyone here ever had to deal with a person who was in shock or appeared to be in shock as a result of a sudden trauma or tragedy? All right, panel number 1. Panel number 2. Yes, ma'am, you are 13. $16. All right, row right behind that. Third panel. Number 25. Anybody else? Okay. Before he concluded, Mr. Boring asked a couple of questions, and I'm going to follow up on and ask just a little bit different way. What I want to know is if anybody believes that they will be unable to sit as a fair and impartial juror where the evidence may include photographs or video of a dead child. If you believe you're just going to be unable to sit as a fair and impartial juror where the evidence will include photographs or video of a dead child. All right, panel 1. Anybody over here? All right, so if you would keep your hands up. All right, 16. Okay. And we're going to follow up. All right. 19. Man. 26. All right, thank you. Does anybody believe that they will be unable to sit as a fair and impartial jury if the case is going to involve descriptions of how a child dies in a hot car? Anybody think they're just going to be unable to sit as a fair and impartial juror if the evidence were to include descriptions of that kind of material? Panel 1. Panel 2. All right, so Miss 16. Thank you, ma'am. 26. All right, thank you. All right, is there anyone who believes that they would be just unable to sit as a fair and impartial juror if part of the evidence included graphic sexual images? Anybody believe they just won't be able to sit as a fair and impartial juror if they have to see or look at graphic sexual images? Okay, anybody? 16. Thank you, ma'am. What if, what about graphic sexual language? Is there anybody that believes that they cannot sit as a fair and impartial juror if they would be required to listen to graphic sexual language, aside from images? Anybody? All right. 25? Okay. Okay. Again, we're going to follow up. We're going to follow up with individual questions. So if something is rolling around in your head that think, maybe I should have answered that, you can do that at that time. But just one or two other things as far as general questions go. This is kind of a follow up on what the judge asked you. I need to know, we need to know, before we go any further down the road, is there anybody in here that believes, as they sit here now, they favor one side or the other? I don't want you to tell me which side. You either favor one side or the other. In other words, you're partial to one side or the other.
Judge, I'm going to object that it's calling to pre-judge. They haven't heard any evidence. We've already read the statutory questions. They're asking to pick a side and there's been no evidence.
I sustain the objection.
Okay, can we approach Judge?
Yes. I think now's a good time to take a recess. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to excuse you for a recess until, let's say 25 after in your jury assembly room. And I'm asking parties to recess until about the same time in the courtroom. We're in recess. Keep an open mind. No discussions. No investigations. Nothing.